Welcome to Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse. Innovative Strategy is a show designed to help people with their business and personal financial literacy, but not in the way that you have known. This is not your grandpa's financial literacy, as Bill uses his 30 plus years in the financial industry to stretch your financial box from, let's say about a 30,000 foot view of things. Bill and his guests have helped hundreds of clients achieve and surpass their financial goals. If you have any questions, please email Bill at Billhasse, that's Bill at BillHaase.com, or reach out to him right here at 216cement@gmail.com. And of course, this morning, the Modern CFO, what you need to know and why. Good morning, Bill.
Good morning, Ken. How you doing?
I am happy, healthy, and terrific. First reason is we get rid of all the negative commercials out there. Now we just get the funny ones.
Well, now we're going to get a lot of commercials because they got to catch up. They haven't been able to play them all. So you're going to get more commercials and shows going forward, I think. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I know we're not a political show, so we won't go down that road. But let's hope the future is brighter. Let's say than we've been seeing. But yeah, today the Modern CFO. Everybody knows that this show is all about bringing on folks that can help you grow your business and help you out with issues, concerns, problems you might be running into, and how to get past them, and who to talk to help you to get past them. And today is a big one, because today I can't emphasize enough the value of a CFO. It is incredibly important to the growth and development of any business. And we have a very special guest with Haleh Fardi from Pro CFO Partners. And we're talking high level here. This gal knows her stuff and what's going on. And she's here to help us understand just what the value of a CFO is. A modern CFO, by the way, because things have changed. We have changed and have had big shifts in business, and I think we're going to continue to see that. But welcome, Haleh. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm very happy to be here today.
Just how important is a CFO? I mean, do I need one if I have 3 employees or 10 or 20?
You may not need a CFO, but you do need what we call a framework for financial management and growth. Most entrepreneurs don't start a company and say, okay, let me make sure I get my financial act together. So at Pro CFO, what we do is we implement that financial framework for management and growth. And the Modern CFO is strategic. But yes, if you have 3, you should consider, just like your general liability insurance, just like getting your QuickBooks, just like getting your banking, that there's also infrastructure you need to have in place to support your growth.
Well, let me ask you something, because when we were talking in the green room, and you and I have had a couple of conversations now. So a typical business owner, he says, they know one financial sheet. That is, here's where I started at the beginning of the year. Here's what I spent. Here's what I brought in, and here's what's left over. And then they gauge how well their business is doing just on that alone. Now, you and I both know that can be extremely misleading.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So a CFO, what are some of the things that they dig deeper into, that they understand more about the real numbers inside business?
That statement that you just referred to is called an income statement, and it would be like managing your business using your checkbook. So It's similar to that. A paycheck came in, these were my expenses, but it doesn't tell you what expenses you didn't pay for. It doesn't tell you how much you owe on your house. It doesn't tell you how much you should put away if you want to send your children to college. And so in business is That's the same thing. An income statement says how much you sold and what it costs to sell it, but it doesn't say who you owe. It doesn't say how much bank cash you have in your bank account, and it doesn't say what do you own the building you live in. I mean, you're working in now; it's living. So those are just some basic. It's running my life because I have a checkbook, and that's where most people. That's why 4 out of 5 companies fail.
Yeah,
And
when I put on my financial advisor hat, I find that people on their personal side of their lives are much in the same boat, right? They just don't pay attention, and they kind of dig their heads into the sand. And when they come out and they're 50, 55, 60 years old, and they're like, all of a sudden it's like, okay, now what?
yes,
Um,
yes,
because I'm going to retire. Did I put enough money away? How
yes,
long is it going to last? What if I have a life event that drains me? These are the same things that roll into the professional lives. Where you're not paying attention to all the financials that are going
yeah,
on. And this is why I wanted to have you on, because I think it is so incredibly important for people to understand there are other financial sheets that you need to be reading so you can understand trends. You can understand where your strengths are, your weaknesses are. Um,
yes,
and numbers do that. And someone like you helps provide them with that insight.
yes,
How do you go
yes,
about providing them with that insight, though? I mean, I know you had mentioned, you've got to build the framework.
yes, yes. So imagine that you're getting. I'm going to use your example of that financial statement that they're using, but the data is not right. So a framework means the data, it's the garbage in, garbage out. The data that you're capturing is right, and that's your systems and processes. Or we'll have a $18 million company that's never reconciled their bank account. And then they're wondering why they don't have cash. So
Right?
maybe, yes, I mean, believe it or not, this is a fun conversation. I did a project with BP, British Petroleum. And in this project, they were having some systems issues. And within the first 2 weeks, I found $80 million of uncashed rebate checks. This is true. So BP owned Arco owned AMPM Marts, and the money comes from the rebates from the cigarette companies. You know that board on top? That's where the
Yeah.
money comes from for the AMPM Marts. So this $80 million was that rebate. So I find it, and why? Because the person who owned the lockbox was gone. The access to the lockbox was gone. So find them, call all the cigarette companies, have them reissue the checks. When I left 6 months later, they were still not cashed. They didn't know where to put them because there had been so long between which department, and departments had changed and acquisitions had happened. So that's systems and processes that really greatly affect your cash flow. Now, make that not $80 million MVP, make it $8,000. So
If they're looking for somebody to send them to cash in, I'm available. Because if they can't fit it into their system, I'll fit it into mine. 80 million can.
thank you. That 80, are you kidding me? We're all a little bit poorer today because we didn't win that lot Powerball, right?
That's true.
My
That's
father
true.
and I said, in this moment, we are billionaires before we checked our number.
Fortunately, I didn't spend any of that money prior
Yes,
to. I didn't get that chance, so
yes,
lost the $2 to get in the game.
yes.
But
Now think of that on the opposite in business. In this moment, many companies have a lot more resources than they realize. They just don't realize it. And that's one of the importance of systems and processes and accurate data.
yeah, even for the small business owner, and here's a story I tell often. I have a friend who has a small business. He's got 20 or 30 employees, whatnot. But I said, how much does it cost to send out a truck on a call? Actually, first I asked him, I said, what do you charge to send a truck out for a service call? He goes, oh, $70. I said, okay, good. You know that. And how much does it cost you to send that truck out? And he looks at me like a deer in headlights and he goes, I have no idea. But his excuse was there's always something to find that needs to be fixed or repaired, whatever, and they make the money back if there's any loss in that anyway. And I
Yeah,
go, okay, so you're willing to just give money away
wing it.
and you're going to make it back over here. Is that an efficient way to run a business?
No, or let's say, and I'm sure he's successful. We have a really successful client, $35 million client. And again, bring this down to 350. And he said the business is just too big for me to run by instinct anymore. So that's what these systems and processes and a framework is about. How do we make it systematic, sustainable, and scalable? And should that be where the visionary or the business owner's focus is? And we
Yeah,
say no.
that's the hard part.
Yeah.
Because here we are. Imagine yourself, you're a small business owner, and you're growing your business and you reach 1 million, then it's 5 million, then it's 10 million. You can't, not everybody is built to be able to successfully grow and be scalable within
Yes. Yeah.
that type of a framework. And we often talk in the show that you need help. You can't do everything on your own.
Yes.
You just physically can't, mentally can't. And so you need to go out and find the right types of folks that can help you out. And hence we have you here to help develop that scalability, to help understand how to put a lasso around that growth,
Yeah.
and keep it under control.
Yeah, it's about sharing best practices. I mean, when we started the company, and Nelson and I started the company, we were very much a purpose-driven organization. We really wanted to give access to expert CFOs to small companies. And what does that mean when they don't know what a CFO is? To answer your first question, does every company need a CFO? The three of us right now, if we have to define a CFO, we'll give three different answers. And we kind of know the role. What we want to do is make sure that entrepreneurs have access to best practices and that entrepreneurs know what's available to them in terms of cash, in terms of tools for revenue. What are your margins? You think your best customer is your biggest, that 20-80 rule that I hear so much. It's so tired, but your 20% best customer. We've had large organizations that 20%, the top 2 clients, are actually draining companies' resources.
Mm.
Their contribution of margin to overhead is very little. So you can keep that client if you're past what we call break even, because you're getting some dollars. You can keep that client if you want to grow your market share and say, look, I'm a big company. But if you're trying to make money, you shouldn't keep that client because that client's costing
It's a
you.
part of the role, right?
Mhm.
That's ego plays a part of that role and your
Oh,
decision making. And the more successful we become, somehow we become more smarter in our own minds, right? Not really, but we do think we're smarter because we built this wonderful thing.
yes.
And I did it all alone. But yeah, the mindsets, like you might have a bookkeeper, you
Yeah.
might have an accountant, a general accountant, or you might have a payroll person. These are folks that come underneath a CFO,
Yes.
right? So they're part of the machine.
Yeah.
But then you have to have that person overseeing that machine, right?
Yes. Yes. It's excuse me. It's really the people you said. Bookkeeper tells you it's writing and filling your checkbook. The payroll or your accountant is running your operations. They're think of them as running the household. A CFO is driving the car with you. It's your navigator, sitting beside you saying you need gas. This is where you said you were going. These are the routes you need to take to get there. This is how much it's going to cost.
And look at that little red light over there. What's that mean?
That red light over there. Exactly. So that's that modern CFO concept, where CFOs used to be. I can actually say I'm old enough to actually say this, like not a bean counter, but I've actually started in a corner office in the storage area with styrofoam coming down over my head because they were packing boxes above. I remember that job. And because that's how we were. We were historic reporters of activity. And somewhere along the way, you get out of that and you help the visionary achieve their goals. And a CFO, a modern CFO, accelerates them achieving those goals.
You give that visionary, that CEO, that opportunity
Yes.
to do that. Can't you? You're
Yep. You know what? We're humming right along here, and I just want to say, for more information on what Hale does, go to procfopartners.com. That's their website, and you can get a lot of information. Even get in touch with them there. But procfopartners.com. And then a question that, and I've just been people are seeing the top of my shiny head because I'm scribbling all these notes. But a question is, in a smaller company where Bill, a lot of your listeners are in that space where it's maybe under 20 employees, right? The owner is the CEO, and the CEO expands the company and drives profitability. And when it's just me as the owner, and then I've got 5 employees, 6 employees, I have a different vision than what a CFO would, right? A lot of small business owners don't analyze things, right? We look at it and go, nope, I need that. Let me go get it.
Yes.
Nope, this will help. I'll go get it. Right.
Yes.
So that CEO or CFO piece that you guys do at the Modern Partners, tell me about the need for that.
Sure. When the CEO's job, the leader, the entrepreneur, the business owner, small or large, they're in leadership. The definition of leadership is to define the vision, articulate it, and engage your team. That's the job of an owner. So the ones that have a vision, I mean, when you have poor cultures, the team doesn't know what we're doing. The owner says, go do this. And the team says, oh gosh, what does he want to do now? Like, what is he doing now? And they roll their eyes and they go do it. So if you think of those things, define the vision, articulate it, and engage your team, that's the job of the CEO. So a CFO doesn't have their own vision. They are enabling the achievement of that vision. They're developing the strategies to achieve that vision. And part of it is to play the long game. Simon Sinek has a new book called The Infinite Game. And I love The Infinite Game because it says, look, you don't win 20 million. I mean, you don't say, I reached 20 million. I reached 5 million. I'm done. Like you have to, a couple of days ago, I was having a conversation with someone and it was about Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway, right? Own, hold, grow. That's infinite. But what we're doing in own, hold, grow is that's the vision of an entrepreneur. For many, many, many years, I'm a career CFO. It's in my DNA. I didn't feel I was a visionary, until someone told me, you know what they do? Their skill, they start. So your vision doesn't have to be completely developed. You just need to start it.
Right.
Then year 3, you're like, oh my gosh, what is this?
Yeah.
And Amazon's happened, and what do I do? So a CFO helps you on that path.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there's all kinds of different values that a CFO brings into play. A small business owner, you might have that accountant, but you better trust him, because if you don't know how to read the numbers in the sheets, and he does or she does, you're vulnerable.
Yes.
To things you probably don't even know. You're vulnerable.
You don't even know. Or I quote Nelson a lot because, first of all, I highly respect him. But what he says is just so to the point. He says, yes, your accountant tells you the numbers, or your controller tells you the numbers, or you see the numbers. You know what they should be, what they could be. Isn't that great? Instead of just reading, what should they be and what could they be?
And let's put out there that Nelson will be on our show here at the end of
Yes, I do.
So we're going to have a kind of a follow up with him and kind of look at it from a different viewpoint and a different angle.
Yes.
But I mean, so in a CFO, you take into things like the economy. Um, you help put together. We talked about like a powerful team. We talked about strategic agility,
Yes.
um,
Yes.
frameworks. I mean, it's more than just bringing a person on and saying, "Here, watch my numbers for me, and tell me when they get out of line."
Correct. Our clients started raising their prices 18 months ago. And
Okay.
that's because we're not looking at what can we achieve today or reporting on what happened yesterday. And it's so interesting. We have a small client, $400,000, and they sell. It's actually a really, really good business, resale of children's clothing.
Okay.
And all we did was every day we went through the inventory and we raised the price. They're $3 or $4 each by 25 cents. Just think about the impact that had on the business.
Mhm.
Right. So it was an immediate revenue, top line growth, gross margin growth, and net profit growth by changing the price by a quarter on $4 shirts.
Pricing is
So
a difficult thing to come to terms with, right? You've got a new product or service. How do you price that? There are methods
yes,
I'm aware of, but for most folks, it's like, okay, sometimes it's easy, right? If you're a plumber, electrician, it's what the market bears and
yes,
what's going on around you, right? Competition. But let's say you're bringing something new to the market, a new idea, new concept, and you're like, how do you price that and be comfortable with it? And because you got to make your projections, right?
yes, yes,
Especially a new startup company, you got to make your projections. You got to, in order for you to sell the business, to raise the funds, to start the business, you have
yes.
to put all these things together in place. So even a CFO can come into play before you're even up, your doors even open and your signs out front.
Correct, correct. I mean, the most people say, okay, this is what it's going to cost me. This is how much I want to have left over, and this is what I'm going to price it. And what if as you said, you're the only game in town? You could price it more if it's a need. What if your product is incredibly unique? One of the things that I love is the opportunity to be able to maximize that price, not just for profit, but you can now attract the best salespeople because the compensation model, which uh, is a very attractive one, and it'll attract great salespeople. We had a conversation, someone who opened up the website and they wanted their e-commerce going. Think of all of your clients and e-commerce. And they decided to create an extremely attractive compensation model for the web developer. So it didn't make them an equity owner, but the web developer gets a big chunk of that business. The web developer made $2.5 million last year. So that e-commerce became 40% of their revenue.
Right. And bringing on good salespeople, that's not inexpensive.
No.
To get quality people in sales is very expensive because there's not a lot out
Yes.
there.
So as a CFO, or let's say a financial partner, you have access to that information. And one of the things that I wanted to share is for all of your listeners today, there is a tool that we have as part of our revenue flywheel. And many businesses start their business and don't look at their business plan ever again. And the tool that I'm talking about, that's the financial flywheel, and the revenue model is, excuse me, 1 second. I have so we believe there's 6 pillars or 6 spokes for framework for management. One is you need to know why you're doing it and where you want to be. So that's your goals and strategies. Why, how, when. We really look at that. How do you accomplish your goals? And then you go into the revenue model, which is what you're selling. What is the problem you're solving in the market? Have you looked at that recently? We already talked about systems and processes. There's reporting. You can't do any of this with cash, and you can't do any of it without profit. So we love Jim Collins and was inspired by the flywheel concept to say your financial systems like a flywheel. You take any one of these 6, goals and strategy, looking at your revenue systems, reporting cash and profit out. That's why 4 out of 5 businesses fail, because they're only thinking of that one pager, or they're only thinking about their cash at the bottom of the page. Now,
Yeah, well, that's pretty common, right? And good
Yeah.
morning, Scott. Thanks for joining us. Always a pleasure to have you with us. I do wish you well. I can understand the values of these. I'm going through this process myself
Yes.
as we speak. So I'm learning about each of these phases. I haven't gotten to the cash management profit part yet.
Yes.
Working on that.
You have to have revenue to get there.
Got to have revenue. Yeah, and you know,
Yes.
and yeah, we need.
So let's talk about revenue.
Yeah.
There's a tool, and I think, Kent, for you, it's page 24. And I'm going to mute for a second. Okay. And let me make sure.
Is that the new one?
I have the old one open. I'm sorry. It's the last page that I sent you. Hold on one moment. I'm going to open. It was that chart that I sent that attached.
I gotcha. There, this one.
This is the tool. We have this on our website. Everything we're talking about today, because we're purpose driven, we have on our website and people can download it. And then we'll be happy to spend some time with you, guiding you how to use it. But this is a revenue model tool. It's really a lean business canvas. That's all it is. You can access this anywhere. And take a look at your business and see if you can answer those questions. And what's really interesting is, can your team answer these questions? What is the problem you're solving for the market?
Mhm.
What are the solutions you're offering? Who are your customer segments? It's so interesting. People say, I translate for municipalities, but the RFPs are killing my margins. And I say, well, have you had any other clients other than municipalities? Yes. Hospitals. Do they require an RFP? No. So, okay. So hospital is a new customer segment that you could actually make money working with.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's it, just for people that are out there. If you go to procfopartners.com, you're going to see this, and it's a really neat, easy canvas that asks, the problem. What are the three primary top problems that your company solves? And what are the top 3 features of your products? Really, if you are a business owner or even a manager of something, you can grab this, and if you can't answer these for your company, you better sit with maybe the CEO or the owner or somebody.
Well, if you're trying to build a business and you're trying to raise capital, this is a great way to look at
It
how
really
to help you put your executive summary together.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
because on this one page, you have everything. And then you can share this page with your 3 to 5 employees, with your 20 employees, and you can say, this is what we're doing. And it's a great way to almost diagnose or triage your own business against an uncertain economy coming up. So do we know the metrics we're measuring? I mean, one of the metrics people aren't measuring right now is the top of your sales funnel. Another metric they're not measuring is, this is an old accounting standard, day sales outstanding. How quickly are you collecting? So there's a box there that says, what are our hot levers this year? So we all know them, but what are the hot ones that we should are leading indicators?
And you can always go back to that page, right? Or back to your executive summary to keep fresh in your mind why you're there, right?
Exactly.
Why are we here? What are we trying to accomplish? Who are we trying to help? And I agree with you that it's so very, very important. And also, when you talk about looking forward, we have regulatory changes, we have tax changes, we've got law changes. There's what difference maybe if you're going to be a global versus just a national business, or maybe you're just working in Chicagoland, let's say, or maybe it's the state of Illinois.
Yes.
There's so many different aspects that a CFO can take into an account where a bookkeeper, the payroll person, and the CPA
Yeah.
may not be on top of all of these things, and rightfully so, because that's not what they do.
So we believe that this canvas should be filled out and reviewed every single year, if
Yeah.
not sooner, in a volatile market.
In a volatile market, I would do this about once a month.
Once a month, right? Just think COVID, think a restaurant. The problem they're solving is people want to go out to eat, or people want access to casual dining, or to not cook when they come home. What happens? So the problem still exists, but your solution can't be in-house dining anymore.
And
So
look at that. That with the pandemic, what we had is there was a shift, right? We can go back, and if we're going to use old sayings, we'll remember an old book called "Who Moved My Cheese."
yes,
And
yes,
so when you go back like that, but we see success and failures, right? With that shift, and what people tried to do, what they thought was best to do. Um, some people didn't react at all. Some react very well, and this is from somebody who's been in the trading pits. I've seen this in individuals in trading, and all of a sudden we go into what's called a fast market. Some people jump right up and get right in that game, and other people stand
yes,
back and go, "I don't know what to do."
yes, yes,
And you get everything in between. And we know that some businesses were very good at
yes,
stepping up and taking care of their business, their employees, and their
yes,
customers. We
yes,
also know that things like school systems failed miserably, right?
yes,
We have
yes.
test scores that are the lowest we've ever seen. We've got plenty of issues with children, and they're still not recovering from that.
No, they're not. They're not.
So it is so important to be thinking forward, to be prepared, to
Yes,
have the right people in place to be able to make these adjustments on the fly, let's say, for lack of a better word at the moment, and to remain focused. And that chart helps you remain focused on the reasons why you did this in the first place.
exactly. And I want to go back to that restaurant, because the ones who knew their business, they knew their customers.
Mhm.
So when the customers couldn't come in dining, the wait staff just moved into the packing. And these are fine restaurants in Chicago. I'm not just talking about what is it called? The Burger Kings and McDonald's who did this for a living. I'm
Right.
talking about fine dining. And the customer would come pick up their bag, maybe with better paper plates and whatnot. Well, guess what? I was just in a restaurant similar to that now. They still have that business. It's still, they did not shut that down. So as the kitchen is preparing for in dining, there's a whole section of kitchen that's this pack and ship that people are still coming and getting fine dining for home.
And
That's
many
what I
restaurants were
love
able to
about
do
it.
that. Many restaurants were able to make that shift. Many
Yes,
failed, right? Many
yes,
didn't make
correct,
that shift. You
correct.
had restaurants, and then all of a sudden it became, it came out of the winter because it started in March 2020, right? And then we come into
Yes,
summer, and we start seeing outdoor dining,
yes, yes.
right? And that now becomes a big deal, and everybody's like, "Why didn't we do this before? This is
So
awesome."
knowing your canvas allows you to, knowing your canvas, knowing your leading metrics allows you to be able to be a strategically agile company. So the activity in strategic agility is pivoting, but that means your staff can make decisions. You know your business, you can, you know your customers, and that way you can pivot. If you don't know your customer, if you don't know that channel to your customer, and that they can still drive and come to your store, they can still drive and come to the restaurant. They're just not going to sit in there. That's a channel to your customer. That
Well,
allows you to be able to pivot
and find new customers,
and find
and
new
because
customers.
others are failing, and
Yes,
you're still hanging in there and succeeding. So it's challenging. And again, I think one of the differences is the restaurants that were successful, the restaurants that have CFOs
yes,
that have that lean canvas. Right. When I first looked at that page, I was like, "Oh boy, that seems like there's a lot there." But once I did, there isn't. It's pretty straightforward and
5
simple.
questions.
Yeah, it's pretty
Who,
straightforward and simple.
what, how much? That's and why.
Yeah.
That's what it is, you know? It's
Right.
why, what is the problem? What are you selling them? Who are you selling it to? How are you getting to them? And why are they buying from you? That's all you're answering.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be on a fancy page.
Well, what I love about CFOs two things is I always say CFOs see the matrix, right? If you remember that movie,
Yes, I do.
that's what your CFO sees. We don't necessarily see that all the time,
Yes.
but it's like that. And I've never met a CFO who hasn't been able to work an Excel spreadsheet like a Word document.
Yes, that's true. I can't work a Word document, Ken. We can't do it to save our lives, right? I've actually used that matrix thing example. I love it when an owner says, I'm opening up a 10,000 square foot showroom in Atlanta in November. And that's it. I've signed the lease. And then they can go vision some more. And the team is just mobilized. We know why he's opening the showroom. We know how to get the material or job. He does not worried about, or she is not worried about payroll. I had a particular owner in mind, which is why I said he. That is really what, most CFOs or controllers, your primary financial partner, as I'm going to call it, because people hear CFO and they're like, I'm too big. Your primary financial partner, you need one. Work 50, 60 hours. Why? They've bought into your vision.
Mhm.
Yeah. And they feel imprinted on you and want to ensure there's a little bit of a hero complex in there. Where do I find the money to get this done?
Well, because if you have that lean canvas and you have that put together, you have that executive summary, you have that pitch deck, people are more apt to buy in than you just say, I got this great idea.
Yes.
I need $5 million to start it up.
Yes.
And you just trust me. This thing's going to be huge. If I capture 3% of the market at X amount of dollars, I'm going to make, $20 million this year, and that's really a conservative view. But the reality is folks, that's not enough. Right?
It isn't. It isn't.
It isn't.
One of the things I want to share, because you said it, hundreds of companies, Bill, time on the floor, you've seen it. And there is a book that I want to recommend. I'm not the author. What is it they say on YouTube? I don't get royalties,
Right.
but there's a book here called The Business of Expertise, and it is by David C. Baker. It's one of my favorite go-tos. And whoever your primary financial person is, depending on your size, and we're pro CFO partners, so we have our.
And I are head down because we're both writing down this book.
Yeah.
Just so you know.
It's a great book. It's a great book. I love the first third. Even if you get through the first third of it, there's things in here that information on pricing. But the definition of expertise is someone who has done a job for a long time. They've done it across multiple industries, and they've done it wearing multiple hats. So that's our CFOs. Our CFOs have been in the C role for 10 plus years. They've done it across multiple industries, and they've been CRO, CAO, some of them CEO or president. What that allows us to do is go in and quickly identify gaps. We can very quickly say, well, why aren't you doing this? And an example of it is a company that's having cash flow problems. And they're having cash flow problems, but their delivery is a 6-month delivery. They're in research and development. All we did is, why aren't you collecting 50% up front? They were funding payroll for 6 months, 3 to 6 months. And all we had to do is 50% on signing the contract. Cash flow problems were solved.
So this is something so it's by David who?
David C. Baker.
David C. Baker. Okay. But I'm glad you brought us into this path, because I wanted to learn more about, and I want other folks to learn more about Pro CFO Partners as a company, right? So you have, am I correct in saying about 150 C-level type folks that?
Right now we have about 50 C-level. We're about 50 C-level. Yes. Okay. And imagine that flywheel that we talked about, or your 6 pillars, what you should do in your business to get where you want to go faster. I'm going to say accelerate your growth is just such business lingo, right? Get there faster. Get there. I'll say it a better way. One of the ways I love, way back there, I used to have on my table, now I don't even know what's okay to have or not, but it was Daffy Duck, sitting here with his arms like this, and the paperweight said, better, faster, cheaper, bigger, better, bigger, faster, cheaper, right?
Okay.
So now we say accelerate your growth, right? But in order to do that, take those 6 pillars, the goals and strategy. Like, why are you doing this? Your revenue model. What am I selling and to who? For how much? What am I measuring? Your systems and processes. Do I have internal controls for cash, for inventory? Do I have right contracts that are collecting? Your reporting. Okay, let's look at some history and take this and say, forecast it. If I stay on the same lane, same track, where will I be? And then say, how much money do I need? Sources of funding. And then say, okay, how much money did I make profit? Those 6 spokes on the flywheel, your CFO turns those. So you don't have to pay.
Yeah, and with Pro CFO partners, with the different C-level folks that you have, you're able to see things that a business owner most likely isn't, right?
Correct.
One very important thing that's been on people's minds now for the last couple of years is supply chain.
What
And
was
how
this?
is that going to affect, you know? When you talk about supply chain going forward,
Yes.
how important is it to have somebody who understands that world very well? Because that can be, if you're building a widget,
Yes.
you've got to have parts, right? The business I'm building doesn't need parts, but so it has different types of effects. But so Pro CFO partners, you have a C-level person that's probably an expert in that kind of area, and then you have other areas, right? So
Absolutely, across industries. Absolutely. That expertise, as I mentioned to you, not just doing the job, but doing it across industries. Many CFOs, I want to say, grew up, their career was developed in one company, and they know that company, and they know it very well. They've made that family business very successful, or we're part of the team that's made that successful. But they don't have this expertise where they can identify gaps in the process across the board, that framework that you need. I want to talk about supply chain. What happens when a container that costs $5,000 now costs $25,000? And what is that impact as you grow? So those are things that
overnight.
Yes,
right?
It happens overnight. And what if when it comes, it gets stuck at the port? Right? What happens to your prices there? Because now you have to do right by the client. Believe it or not, it happened with a hand sanitizer. We had a janitorial supply company. COVID hits, hand sanitizers. That's why you used to see all the Purell, and then this other brand, they couldn't get Purell because of supply chain. So what do you do then? And how do you not lose your clients to the person who had inventory for Purell? Because people thought Purell is the...
Everybody can relate to this, because you go to your stores and you see there are certain products that you used to love that are no longer available. But let's take it even a step further into that supply chain. So now you finally do get it into port. It costs you $25,000 instead of $5,000 to get that container over and off. Now you got to put it on a train or a boat, another boat up a river, or a truck. But we have this little issue of 2 concerns. Number one, diesel fuel is so skyrocketing expensive, but now we're told there's only 25-day supply left.
Yeah. Yes.
So what are you going to do to make that adjustment if you no longer can get that delivery into your plant?
Yes, and you haven't raised your prices.
Yeah.
And you haven't invested in account management to have customer loyalty.
Now you become a part of that inflation problem.
You're part of the inflation problem, but you're also part of the companies that are in the going out of business cycle.
Yeah.
Because a CFO says, this is coming. Let's look at the clients that are important to us, have enough inventory on hand for them. Let's make sure we raise their prices now so they don't think we're doing reactionary price raising.
Right.
Let's make sure we have account manager, another layer to coordinate their products. So they were called expediting and design. The person helping you.
When we label a business or a company, we might say they're price gouging.
Yes.
The reality is they're not necessarily price gouging. They're they're reactive instead of proactive.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And then I love the supply chain, because you were talking about manufacturing industry and with supply chain. But right now, if you're a service industry, what supply chain issue are you having? People. You
People.
can't get
Yeah.
talent.
No.
You can't. So a
Not
CFO
unless
looks
you
at
pay,
that. How do
and
you
pay a lot of money.
you have or your compensation, just other than the compensation, they're not, especially millennials, aren't there just for the money? So a CFO looks at how much money am I allocating to experiences? How much money am I allocating to retreats? How much money am I allocating to? So people say, well, you're a CFO. Why is the talent um, principle? And because I need to see what it's going to cost for me to acquire, keep, and grow talent.
Right. And good talent, right?
Good
Not just
talent.
any talent, which some
Yes,
companies are taking right now.
yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean, and it's interesting that you bring up the millennials, because I was thinking on the other end of the spectrum, the people I know that are in their late 50s, early 60s, they're making a lot of money. They're not happy, haven't been happy for decades,
Yes,
but they won't leave their job. They can't leave their job or the comfort of that income.
yes,
You know, so
yes,
they're bought, they're
yes,
owned, right?
yes,
And
yes.
and you know, it's unfortunate that so many people do feel that way. Um, and I can understand that. I can't relate to it, because I always just said, if I do not enjoy what I'm doing, then why am I doing it?
Yes.
You know, if I feel I'm trapped, why would I want to live my life that way? It's just miserable.
Well, Ken, I'm going to actually segue this. This is the part where I mentioned we're a purpose-driven organization. We believe every company deserves to work with an expert CFO. And that's why the book on expertise. So, but we're a dual purpose company. We also want to provide expert CFOs with a platform to do what they love on their terms to best contribute to their clients. So that trapped and bought, our CFOs, when we're dual purpose, and Nelson and I are very focused on delivering that. That's how we're attracting these expert CFOs. They are passionate about the project. They work with 2 or 3 clients, so they actually get best practices. I mean, they have a team of 50 CFOs they meet with weekly that they're charged by and learn from. And we want to take the people who are in their 50s and 60s and untrap them, free them to do what they love. And that's another reason Pro CFO Partners exists.
So as a CFO and what you do, Hale, how are you not up at night with just ideas and numbers? And I mean, how can you shut that off? Because as a small business owner myself, it's always it's always going. Now I sit more in the CEO spot, but as I'm talking with you, I'm like, I gotta maybe lean more towards the CFO here.
Yeah. Well, I'll go to Lencioni's, 5 principles, and trust is one of them. If you trust your CFO, that your CFO is thinking that for you, as a CEO, you know that the CFO is going to come to you with priorities the next day and ask you for direction and insight. So as a CEO, one of the things we do, we actually free them up from thinking about how to make payroll at night, because the CFO takes on that role.
That's a big one.
Yeah, it is. But as a CFO, how do we turn it off? We don't. We don't. We imprint. And one of the, when we started this company, one of the biggest challenges we had is if a CFO joined us and they had not been a part-time CFO before, and we actually, I'm going to take a segue, we don't call ourselves fractional CFOs, even though the market sees us that way. We believe a fractional CFO is an external consultant who comes in and advises, and a part-time CFO, we're a member of your management team, but we're just part-time. So if they haven't done that before and they have 2 clients, they're working 120 hours a week because they're working full-time on each client. Sure. The framework that we've developed, the flywheel, says this is the part of the wheel that's broken. I'm going to repair this part of the wheel, but while I'm doing it, I'm taking care of what caused it. So I'm not just dealing with your symptom here. You're having a cash flow problem because your contract needs to be rewritten. Otherwise, I can solve your cash flow problem and bring you in a bank loan. But as you grow, you're going to need a bigger bank loan because you're funding your payroll. So then but we're not thinking about your cash flow, your revenue model, your goals and strategy. We're doing it month by month, priority by priority.
Sure.
So then we're not thinking about it. We are thinking about it all. We can't help ourselves.
And I love the idea of not just bringing quality people to the plate here for those of us who are looking to need CFOs, but bringing people that you bring them in such a way that you're allowing them to be who they are and do what they do. And I think that's a shift in mindset that more business owners need to understand, need to get that in their heads, because that's where it's going. And that's what attracts the quality people that you're looking to bring in, right, as an employee.
Yes.
We talked about this on a show I had on Conversations with the CEO, and how you don't have a corporate ladder anymore, where there's just one way up and you got to claw and fight each step. Now it's more like a lattice fence, right? There's different ways to grow and allow your people to grow and allow them to reach the levels that they're capable of reaching.
Yes. I love partnering with a business owner and saying, why did you start the business? And what do you hope to get out of it? And I had a client who would say, every time I talked to him, he would say, this is too much talk. Just show me the money. Just show me the check. And it ended up he actually wanted a legacy business for his daughter. And so we had to build a business that would survive him. So it was about succession planning. So I believe the true role of the CFO, and why we say pro CFO partners, is to partner with the CEO to accomplish your goals. Identify it, articulate it, engage your team, bring the resources. We bring the resources for you to achieve your goals.
And that's right. It's a relationship.
It's a relationship.
CFO, it's a very important, strong relationship. So you do have to trust that person. And for a CEO, a business owner, that's not easy to give that up. As Kent pointed out, we stay awake at night thinking about everything we can possibly think of. How can I get more sales? How am I going to meet payroll? Where's the money at now? Am I overextended, underextended? Interest rates going up. I'm not going to be able to borrow money, or I'm going to have to pay too much to get it.
Yes. You need information, Kent. It's the image, and I'll talk through the image. There's an image I have at the end of that document I shared with you, where it's all dots. It's like connect the dots. And if you take a look at that image, I love that image because it's a piece of paper with some dots on it. And that's called data. I sold 12 cars. Well, if you have an inventory of 10,000 cars, 12 isn't enough.
It's not going to cut it.
So then you take the data and you say, okay, I sold 12 out of 1,000. That's information. Then you take the data and you say, well, 12 out of 1,000 isn't going to get me where I need to go. I actually need to sell 800 out of 1,000. That's knowledge. Then you say, in order to sell that 800, I need to have a different channel to my client because no one's coming to my dealership 5,000 miles away. That's insight. Okay. And wisdom is, if I partner with someone that has multiple locations, I can send them the car. And then, of course, there's a joke there that says conspiracy theory. Like now you can make it whatever you want on this image. But I believe as you're looking at your information, it goes back to when we started this conversation. You have a piece of paper that says what you made, how much it cost, and what's left over. That's only information. A CFO helps you with the knowledge, insight, and wisdom. That's a modern CFO. That's a strategic CFO. Where do you want to go? We will help accelerate getting there.
So bringing this all the way back from the beginning, it's not bean counting anymore.
It's not bean counting anymore.
So much more. I know, Kent, you've been taking lots of notes, and I've got a lot of mental notes as well, because there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
And it's been strongly on my mind as I work to build a business. So one of the questions I would have then is when do you bring in a CFO?
Good point.
Because I'm at a stage, right? But I know I'm going to need a CFO, but I don't know exactly when.
So depends on what kind of CFO. Right now, there's so many places. If you're an incubator, there are mentors at an incubator, and you can go sit with a mentor CFO. If you're pre-funded and you're just developing, you're in the ideation stage, find an incubator and partner. My answer is from the beginning, but you may not be able to afford one in the beginning. Go
Right.
find mentors, join peer groups, find access to it. If you're funded or need a pitch deck and have some angel funding, get an expert CFO. Don't get someone who's learning on the job with you and they've never seen a pitch deck before. They don't know how to fill it out. Find an expert CFO. That's why part-time. Work with them 1 or 2 days, get it done until you get funding. To me, is the most important is go on Pro CFO Partners website. All the information is there. We have shared the flywheel, the supporting flywheels, cash flow projections, forecasts, break-even analysis. We want you to have access to this and be thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then, so I would work with a CFO. Right now, we work with companies ranging from 3 million to 120, but we have a couple of outliers because they have some funding, and also because we believe we can get them to the next level. We can create the next level with them.
Yeah, very interesting. It's it's a common answer is now, but as when we look at startups and saying, okay, I'm trying to raise capital, I need pro bono, which is what every business owner wants, right? They want the experts to give their information away free, but going on your website can give you a plethora of information and knowledge. And my partner Deb and I, our mission statement for our businesses is we provide knowledge. Knowledge gives you choices, right? And choices give you freedom.
Yes, but entrepreneurs are resourceful. You can go on our YouTube. We also have a Pro CFO Partners YouTube page, and you can put in any keyword, manufacturing, startup, talent, and you'll have one of our expert CFOs having a conversation very similar to this one. So be resourceful. Go to your city incubators. Go to this SBA in your city, and they may not be expert, but they know it more than you do. The financial side more than you do, and partner immediately.
I say it all the time: is do your homework,
do your homework,
due diligence. Do not have expectations that things are going to fall into place, or that when I need it, it'll slap me in the face, and I'll know now's the time, and then go get it. Do your homework. You really want to build a solid business, because it's tough to see 7 million businesses basically signed up for an LLC, S Corp, C Corp, sole prop within the last almost 2 years. And we know the majority, 4 out of 5 of those are going to fail. And these are some really good ideas. Maybe there's some big ideas, maybe there's small ideas, but they're good ideas. They're going to fall by the wayside because of people not doing due diligence. Not doing
it's so interesting.
Because they didn't know.
They didn't know. And it's not just startups. It's not just new businesses. Family businesses that through succession, second and third generation, same thing happens because they're not looking at their business again. They don't have that partnership. PE, M&A, same thing happens, large fail because they don't have that financial partner. So it's across when you said pro bono, they want somebody. The important thing is you deserve to work with an expert CFO. It doesn't have to, I'd love for it to be Pro CFO Partners, but it should be a business requirement that just like you want your bank account and your general liability insurance, you should partner with a CFO very early on and be resourceful to find that.
I like that point. It should be a requirement.
It's a business requirement. Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is, and it really should be. So this conversation, we'll bring up Scott's question in just a sec. But this is, even with me doing my due diligence and homework, this is more than I ever thought about a CFO, right? And because I had talked to a friend of mine and I said, well, you could be my CFO. And he's like, I've never been one. And I go, well, we'll teach you. But now I'm thinking that's probably not the best idea about the way we want to go. But Scott Giles brings up, at what point does a company consider getting in a CFO? Is there a specific dollar amount that it makes it advantageous to bring someone in ahead of your books to get a non-biased opinion?
I wish, Scott, that I could give you an exact answer of a dollar amount and whatnot. Our clients range. We have over 100 and something clients ranging from 300,000, as I mentioned, to 150 million. If your business right now is growing in the way you want it to grow, and you're sitting here on this call, so you're already resourceful, you're already listening for best practices, continue with that. There are some triggers, and I've shared a one pager that Kent will share. Triggers are you don't have money in the bank account, your profit is shrinking, or something's going on, you're buying equipment. Triggers are your sales are declining. Triggers are you feel the cost of your goods are going up and you don't know how to do pricing. Those are some triggers. Get a CFO. So I've shared some triggers of this is the time. And if you go back to those 6 pillars, it's I don't know how to pivot. Get a CFO.
We're at the end of the hour here. It went by so fast. So what I would tell you, Scott, is I would go to procfopartners.com and I would check that out and learn more about that. Obviously, you can reach out to me. You and I know each other quite well, and I can help you with that. But Hala, we want to thank you so much for coming on the show. It's so important. I know Kent. Thank you for producing yet another wonderful show.
Thank you. This was wonderful. I get all excited because I really want to help small businesses. So thank you for this platform.
I feel it. I know that.
Yes.
For all of us here at 216 The Net, thanks for tuning in to Innovative Strategies with Bill Hasse. Stick around because we've got a lot more good stuff coming your way. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.